Hi YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do the second installment of the challenges that I am taking on. I've already posted the top 10 best rated books on my Goodreads TBR. Today we are going to do the top 10 worst rated books on my Goodreads TBR. Now, worst rated is something that I would take very lightly and with a grain of salt. The only thing that I did was do the average rating sorted on Goodreads on my Goodreads TBR, and these were just the worst rated. These ratings actually aren't that bad. They're usually at a 3.5 or above, so I wouldn't necessarily call that a bad rating. They're not rated 1.9 stars. They're not rated 2 stars. These are pretty average books in an average rating, which I usually use. 3 stars for me is an average book. But basically what I just did is I just went to average rating. I went from least to best, and these are the worst rated books on my Goodreads TBR. I'm very excited. I actually only own one of them already, and I am currently reading one as well, and I'm very excited to get to them, and I will let you know. So let's get into the video. I am going to show you these books in descending order, so I'm going to start with the highest rated book on the worst rated list, and I'm going to go all the way to the #1 worst rated book on my Goodreads TBR. Coming in at number 10 on my worst rated books on my Goodreads TBR is actually a book I'm reading right now. It is Sous Chef, 24 Hours on the Line by Michael Gabney. This book is an in-depth look on what it takes to be a chef from start to finish of your day. It is following the AM sous chef of a American cuisine restaurant, Michael, and the restaurant he's in is a little higher end but not completely fine dining, not a perfect tasting menu, so a little high end but not at the tip top, and it basically goes exactly bullet point format, well, not technically bullet point, but just step-by-step format of what his day consists of when he gets in at 9 a.m. until he leaves at the end of the night. I'm currently 120 pages into it, so I've only got about 65 pages left, and I have to say that I actually really enjoy this book. I am a food nerd. I love cooking shows, I love cooking competition shows, and I really enjoy the culture of food, the culture of chefs. A lot of them are these like ragtag, like what you might think of chefs. They've all got tattoos, they're all got bad attitudes. I really love that kind of culture. I personally, I cook at home, but I am definitely nowhere near chef quality. But I really enjoy learning about that kind of culture, so I was really excited to go into this book, and so far I haven't been disappointed. Overall, I would recommend it as far. I still have a little bit to go, but I personally don't see any problem with it. I can understand why it would get a star rating of 3.58. I can understand that a little bit because it is a little complex. It's very quick moving. If you don't know these terms, then you might get a little lost, but Gibney does his best to give you all the tools you may need to be able to read this book successfully. So far I've been really enjoying this book, and I really recommend it. The #9 spot holds Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. This was another book recommended to me by a book Olive. She's one of my favorite booktubers. I was really excited to have that recommendation. So it's basically about at age 22, Lotto and Matilda are tall, glamorous, madly in love, and destined for greatness. A decade later, their marriage is still the envy of their friends, but with an electric thrill, we understand that things are even more complicated and remarkable than they have seemed. It basically goes through the relationship over the decade and see what is out to the public, what truths about their relationship are out to the public, but mainly what secrets lie behind their relationship and what makes them such a great relationship. It has a 3.57 rating, so I'm really excited to get to it and see what kind of lies beneath the surface of a complicated relationship. #8 on the list is Landline by Rowell. This was actually the Goodreads Choice winner of 2014, and it comes in at a 3.55 rating on Goodreads. It is about Georgie McCool and her husband Neil, and it really just talks about their marriage and how over time it's just disintegrated. It goes through that Georgie prides herself on her work, and she often prioritizes that over her husband and her family. she is supposed to go on a trip with her husband Neil to Omaha for Christmas to visit his family, but she decides to stay behind and to work, which ultimately she thinks might have ruined their marriage. However, while she's home alone, she finds the old way they used to communicate, either by email or through text message. It doesn't really say, but it does discover those very first messages between her and her husband and what that spark was back when their relationship was brand new. And so she is looking at that, and hopefully she comes to terms with either that her marriage is over or that she wants to save her marriage and prioritize her husband. So I'm really excited. The only Rainbow Rowell I've ever read is Eleanor and Park, which I thought was incredibly cute for the time I read it. It wasn't mind-blowing or shattering, the best romance I've ever read, but it was very good at what it did. So I'm really excited. Rainbow Rowell is a really proclaimed author, and so I'm very excited to get to this book and see if it lives up to that 3.55 rating. The next book on the list is Tokyo Heist by Diana Renn. This book is about 16-year-old Violet is thrilled when her father's new painting commission means a summer trip to Japan. This priceless Van Gogh sketch is stolen from her father's client, and joined by her friend Rika, Violet and Rika search for that sketch, because until that sketch is found, it says in the description that their lives are in danger. I'm not really sure how, but there are a couple things that I really love in this world. The first thing is art. I got my bachelor's degree in art history, so I am a huge art fan, especially Vincent van Gogh. The other thing is I love a good mystery, and I love a good art heist. Like, those are probably my favorite items in mysteries. Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code is one of my favorite books just because it has an art heist in it, and of course it surrounds the Mona Lisa, which is one of the most famous paintings. So this book really intrigued me because of all those things, and it comes in at a 3.54 rating, which isn't a bad rating for a book. So I'm really excited to see what comes of it and see if I enjoy it or not. Coming in next on the list is number 6, Fear of Flying by Erica Jong. This book was originally published in 1973, so I don't know if that is considered a classic or not. I actually picked this up from a Goodwill bookstore. It was $3.59, and this is actually from its first publishment in 1973. So it does kind of have an ancient feel. It's got deckled edges and worn pages, so I'm really excited to get to it. Basically what the book is about is Isadora Wing is in a marriage that she really just dislikes, and so she decides to embark on an affair, which is incredibly irresponsible, but that is what's supposed to bring the drama. So it is she accompanies her husband to Vienna, and then she leaves him and crisscrosses Europe, but as she comes to learn, liberation and happiness are not necessarily the same thing. So this book, when it was originally published in 1973, was really one of the key books in establishing sex and feminism in the world. So I'm really excited to see what that book prohibits, and if it stands up to the test of time. Is it still a remarkable book in 2019? Will it still be a remarkable book in years to come? What are the main messages of that book? So I'm very excited to get to it. Coming in at number 5 on the worst rated books on my Goodreads TBR is This Book is Overdue, How Librarians and Cybrarians Can Save Us All by Marilyn Johnson. This was yet another recommendation from a book olive, and one of my favorite things in life are libraries. I'm a big believer in the library system, and I often check out my books from libraries. This book talks about libraries and librarians itself, their history, and how librarians are more vital and necessary than ever as they fuse the tools of the digital age with the love for the written world and the enduring values of truth, service to all, and free speech. This book is Overdue is a romp through the ranks of information professionals who organize our messy world and offer old-fashioned human help through the maze. Again, a big believer in libraries, so I'm really excited. I love nonfiction books about topics that I'm interested in. Obviously, those include cooking, art, and books. So I'm really excited to see how she looks at libraries and how important they are to the world. Number 4 on the list is Tigers in Red Weather by Liza Klaussmann. This book is about Nick and her cousin Helena, who have spent many summers together in Martha's Vineyard throughout their childhood. It goes through their two worlds and how their lives have separate paths. Helena is off to Hollywood in a new marriage, while Nick is heading for a reunion with her own young husband Hughes, about to return from war. Soon the guilt begins to crack. Helena's husband is not the man he seemed to be, and Hughes has returned from the war distant, his inner light curtained over. Over the brink of the 1960s, back at Tiger House, their house that they grew up in over the summers in Martha's Vineyard, Nick and Helena bring their children Daisy and Ed, try to recapture that sense of possibility. But when Daisy and Ed discover the victim of a brutal murder, the intrusion of violence causes everything to unravel. So it looks like it's also it goes through their lives, but as a separate path, it is also a murder mystery. I love murder mysteries, and this was a recommendation from Jen Campbell here on BookTube. It has a 3.42 star rating. Again, not a bad rating for a book, but kind of average. So I'm interested to see how this book weaves in many storylines. It seems like the storyline between Nick and her cousin Helena, the storyline between each of their Nick and Helena's husbands and how they're dealing with each other, as well as the murder plot. So it seems like there's lots of different ways that this book could go, and so I'm interested to see how that author weaves all those three storylines together. Number 3 on the list is Ordinary People by Diana Evans. This book has a 3.42 rating, just like Tigers in Red Weather. This is about two couples, Melissa and Michael, and Damien and Stephanie. So these two couples, one lives in the city of London and one lives in the suburbs, and it really just goes through their different couples' lives. Michael and Melissa have a new baby, but they're growing very distant, and Michael can't seem to stay faithful to her, and Stephanie is happy with Damien and their 3 children, but the death of Damien's father has thrown him into a crisis. Or is it something or someone else? So this book seems like it goes through the two couples' lives and how they interweave. It seems like the two couples' lives intertwine, and we get to see how that all plays out. It seems like an interesting book from first look. It's definitely recommended a lot on BookTube. Jen Campbell, Lauren in the books, they definitely have both talked about it, and so I'm really excited to see how this book does that storyline well. Number 2 on the list is Fly on the Wall, How One Girl Saw Everything by E. Lockhart. This book is about a high school student, Gretchen Yee, who is at a gifted and talented arts high school, and in this she feels absolutely ordinary, and she often talks about what it would be like to be a fly on the wall of the popular people or the people in her school. Well, what happens when that actually comes true and she actually becomes a fly on the wall? This book seems incredibly interesting. I mean, we all have those thoughts of like eavesdropping on other people. What are other people thinking about you? And especially in high school, I was definitely one of those people that wanted to know what other people thought about me. Less likely now, but more in high school. So I completely understand her want to know what these people are thinking about her. So I'm interested to see what she finds out. Maybe everyone thinks that she's spectacular. Maybe everybody hates her. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. And finally, the worst rated book on my Goodreads TBR is The Dead Fathers Club by Matt Haig. This has a 3.30 rating, which in my opinion is not a bad rating at all. However, it is a Hamlet retelling. So it is about 11-year-old Philip Noble, who has a big problem. His dad was killed in a car accident, appears as a blood-stained ghost at his own funeral, and introduces Philip to the Dead Fathers Club. The club, whose members were all murdered, gather outside the castle in Falcon, the local pub that Philip's family owns and lives above. Philip's father tells him that Uncle Alan killed him and he must avenge his death. Philip is only 11, so how is he supposed to avenge his father's death and do anything about it? It is also like Hamilton, Uncle Alan is interested in Philip's mother, but he has to, the way this shifts is that he is 11, unlike Hamlet, who is much older in the Shakespeare play, and he is in the modern age, so he's distracted by pretty girls, wayward friends, school bullies, and his own self-doubt. So how is he supposed to avenge his father's death? to me, I really enjoyed the story of Hamlet, and I enjoyed the chaos of the ending completely. So I'm excited to see how hopefully that changes, because when I read Hamlet originally, the ending just perplexed me and I didn't understand the necessity of all the violence. So I hope that this has a different ending, but I'm definitely interested to see. So that was the top 10 worst rated books on my Goodreads TBR. I'm really looking forward to incorporating both of those all of those books in my next upcoming months. I'm also going to be doing a third challenge, which will hopefully come out soon, probably sometime in September, so make sure to look out for that. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. You'll also find my social medias in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye. Done. What you don't know is that I have this nice shirt on, but actually I'm wearing pajama bottoms.